We weren't required to do the hearing. We elected to do it because we think it's the right thing to do. So that is why we're here. Wish there were a few more people, but glad to see some people here. So thank you for coming. The process, the applicant, of course, is the Office of Mauna Management. They did file a conservation district use application with us, and we accepted it on January 2nd, 2018, earlier this year. So we have typically 6 months to process a permit, so we have to finish processing this permit by June, mid-June, June 17th. So they did produce an environmental document, environmental assessment, and they issued a finding of no significant impact to the environment regarding the work they want to do at Halipohaku, and that was done in August 23rd, 2017. So we got the application, we sent it out for solicit public comments, agency comments. Our staff is reviewing the application as we speak. And we have an environmental document, and now we've come out to the community to talk to you about this and to get your input. So after this, we'll go back to Honolulu and we will work on a report, and the report will consider all of the input that's we've been provided with, and we'll come up with a staff report, position on the project, and then that staff report will be submitted to the chair, and the chair will decide whether or not it's sort of up to snuff. And at that point, if it is, then we'll submit it to the land board to be considered at a regular land board meeting. That regular land board meeting will be in Honolulu. I don't know what the date of that hearing is yet, but that's another opportunity for people. I know this is Big Island and that's Honolulu, but I have to say that is an opportunity for people to come and testify on the matter before the board. I am a hearing officer. I am here as a proxy for the land board because they can't all come out here tonight, although we did invite a couple of the board members. So the deal is we record the hearing, we take notes, and then we provide this information to the board members since they're not here tonight. So if you're going to testify tonight, there's not a lot of people here tonight, so feel free to tell us what you think. Certainly try to be efficient with the time that you use to testify so that other people can get up and do the same. Be courteous, and as I know you all are, being from this wonderful town, and we'll get through this and then we'll go on to the next step, whatever that may be. So I think what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to turn it over to Kristen. And how long is your presentation? Okay, 15-minute presentation, and then we will allow you to comment on the matter. So without further ado, then I think we'll just have Kristen start her presentation.
Aloha. My name is Kristen Dewan. I'm with Sustainable Resources Group, and we are the consultant that prepared both the environmental assessment for this project that the Office of Mauna Kea Management is proposing, and also the Conservation District Use application. The project in general is, can everyone see? Sorry. The project in general is aimed at improving traffic conditions and visitor access to what's affectionately known as the VIS, which is the Visitor Information Station at Halipohaku. And it's important to maintaining a safe experience for visitors and workers. And the main components of the project are a new parking lot and an access lane, and I'll talk more about those later. but there's some other pieces that I'll be telling you about as well. And the need for this is really driven by an increase in visitors to the mountain, the need to ensure their safety, and to prevent impacts to natural, historic, and cultural resources. The project has been designed to comply with terms of the general lease that the university has with the state, the Mauna Kea Science Reserve Master Plan, which calls for increasing parking as demand increases, and the BLNR-approved Comprehensive Management Plan, which calls for all parking to be safely on the same side of Halepohaku as the facilities. So most of you are familiar with where Halepohaku is, 9,200 feet. It's in the resource subzone of the conservation district. And it is a location where people, the visitors, stop to acclimate before they go up to the summit, and also to learn about cultural and natural resources and any safety considerations about ascending to the summit. So it's an important place that people have access to and that they can stop and get that information. So as Sam had mentioned before, this slide just kind of talks about why the CDP is required and that an EA was done. So you can kind of skip over that. This is a image that shows the 19.3 acre Halepohaku parcel. Up here is basically the astronomy support facilities. This is the VIS right here. This is primarily the area where the work is going to be done. This is a gravel parking lot that's currently used. This is the main parking lot, and that's the VIS. So people are kind of walking through this area right now and walking up the road. And that's kind of what's going on right now. So visitation has significantly increased since the construction of the VIS in 1983. Some of that, maybe a lot of that recently, has been due to the completion of saddle road improvements. And the popularity of the sunset viewing and stargazing is causing a lot of overcrowding, traffic congestion, long lines. There's insufficient parking. There's a lot of safety issues, both for people and for the resources, especially with no clearly defined walkways from the parking areas up to the VIS, people walking up the road, people trampling on the the surfaces, causing erosion, trampling on plants. The other thing is there is no nighttime lighting up there, and that's to protect the resources, including stargazing, but that does make it more unsafe for people kind of walking around. So, what we're trying to do with this project is make it a safer area. So these are just some pictures showing, this is the main parking lot up by the VIS. This is the lower parking lot that I was showing in the gravel lot. That's a lot of people that are, coming in for mostly around sunset time, and then a lot of them stay for stargazing. This is the access road. So this was actually before they installed a guardrail. So it used to be people would park on both sides of the road. There's now a guardrail on the side opposite from where the facilities are. And that was installed both for safety reasons, to protect human safety, and also because there was a lot of resource degradation going on. So that was completed in March of last year. So that addressed some concerns, but there's still a lot of concerns on the Halepohaku parcel about parking. And so the proposed improvements, like I said, are mainly about parking and access. So the VIS parking area 1, which we're calling it 1, which is the main one up by the visitor center, will be partially repaved and then restriped to add 3 fully accessible parking stalls. So there'll be a total of 4. And then the VIS parking area 2, so this kind of bluish area, is new paved area. So that will be a 42 stall lot. And then with an entrance and exit down here. And that will have 42 stalls, including one accessible parking spot. And so the other main part of the project is this access lane that will be a newly paved area. And that it will be a one-way kind of up here, so people can come in, and this will be for both personal vehicles and also for the commercial tour operators. They can come in, drop off people, and circle around, and then come back down here to park either in this lot, or if overflow parking is needed, they would be parking back in there as well. One thing I didn't mention about the parking lot too, you'll see these are longhouses under here. This longhouse will be removed. It will either be relocated or demolished, depending if they can find a location for it. This longhouse will stay, and that's used for public presentations. So, let's see, what else? Yeah, so there's the access lane. The gates, there's going to be 2 gates installed, and one gate is going to be put here, planned for here to enclose employee parking, and that one will generally remain closed. The other one that's being proposed is up here, and that will generally remain open. It will be closed during stargazing activities in the evening, because a lot of that kind of happens in that parking area. When it is closed, it will be staffed, and so it can be opened in case of emergency, or if someone needs access to the accessible parking spots. It won't impede any access to this access lane and the turnaround. So, and the gates were reduced. They had proposed a couple more gates in the EA, but based on public comment at the environmental assessment stage, we minimized the gates that are being proposed. So, what else is on here? There's a couple walkways. So this right here is kind of a dirt trail that people use right now, and that is planning to be paved. And then this will be a walkway that provides access to this longhouse, which is used for public presentations. And then the other elements that are on here are swales for drainage and riprap. To catch, because we are increasing impervious surface, so that those elements will be to, catch any of the erosion that comes off. And there's also a couple dry wells. I don't think I have them on here, but there's one there, and maybe another one over there. So 3 dry wells also to capture any of the runoff from the area, with the goal of no net increase in runoff as a result of the improvements. A couple signs, I guess I could go back. Signage mostly for safety, a stop sign there, a stop sign here, do not enter, so people aren't coming back down this one-way access lane. And then 2 information signs, one to tell if the Summit Road is open or closed, and another one that will replace an existing sign alerting people of the VIS location and that there are parking areas, primarily to direct them to that new parking lot too. So I talked about the proposed drainage features. And the last piece of the proposed improvements is a greenhouse, and that is the only one that's not being proposed for this area. It's going to be located up here, which is more around the MKSS support services. And that is a freestanding structure, about, I think, 375 square feet. It'll be anchored to the ground, but no foundation or anything like that. And that's going to be used to support OMKM's ongoing native plant propagation and planting to enhance habitat. So that will be used to do some of the mitigation for this project, and then in the future they will have that as a resource. So just to quickly summarize some of the expected results: more clearly defined safe and accessible parking, improved traffic flow, increased safety for visitors and workers, and then reduced impacts to the resources. A couple things that we went through both in the EA process and then the CDUA, considering cultural resources. We did conduct consultation with SHPD and their determination is that no historic properties would be affected with the implementation of the long-term historic property monitoring plan that OMKM has and implements. During the project implementation, anyone who's working on the project will have to attend a mandatory cultural resources training. There'll be an independent archaeological monitor, and then any discovery of burials or any other cultural artifacts will result in work stoppage and consultation. So there was a, there has been a lot of surveys done in that area and recovery done, we did a survey back in 2016, I think, as part of the EA, and so SHPT has kind of said that there won't be any impacts with that. In terms of endangered species, the habitat around Halepohaku, it's subalpine habitat, so there's a lot of the mamane trees, which are habitat for the palila, but they are rarely seen using the area. So during the EA process, we consulted with Fish and Wildlife, and they determined that there would be no impact based on the fact that the project area is very small. It's already got disturbed with a human presence, and that there is this sort of larger area of mamane habitat on Mauna Kea. Just in case you're not familiar, this is the critical habitat that's been designated for palila on Mauna Kea. This is their core habitat over here in the purple. Here's Halepohaku. So palila have been seen at Halepohaku sporadically, and some of the other endangered birds, the hawk, the nene, even the bat. If they are seen, surveys will be done before the construction is started. If endangered species are found, work will stop until the animals leave the area. They haven't been known to nest there. If they are, work will not proceed if that's happening. So part of the mitigation that is planned for this project, since there will be mamane trees that have to be cut down, was that a minimum of 130 mamane seedlings will be planted, and that was done. The conservation district rules require a 1-to-1 replacement, and this is a 2-to-1 replacement based on a what's the word I'm looking for? A conservative estimate of how many mamane trees are being removed in order to pave the area of the parking lot and the access lane. So another thing that we did in response to comments in the EA was to put in the stipulation that there had to be an 80% survival rate of these 130 trees after 2 years, and so that will be, if they're not thriving or they're dying, more plants will be outplanted, and that's also going to be supported by the greenhouse that's being proposed as part of the project. So the CDUA outlines a whole host of best management practices that will have to be followed by the contractor doing the work. As I mentioned before, the cultural resources mandatory training, short-term erosion control for loose, cinder and gravel. They have to ensure minimal disruption to traffic flow, adhere to the invasive species management plan, which includes inspection of vehicles that are coming onto the site. If they're bringing in rocks or gravel from other places, that needs to be inspected. OMKM already does ongoing surveys for invasive species, so that's covered as part of that plan. The contractor also is required to develop and adhere to a rock movement plan, so that talks about any excavation and grading activities, and that's also to ensure minimizing impacts to the invertebrate habitat and cultural resources. So there's a lot of best management practices as part of the that are outlined in the CDUA, the permit, the NPDES, the National Pollutant Elimination Discharge, that the contractor has to do, also has best management practices. So a lot of those are incorporated, and that all has to be approved by OMKM as well. So I think with that, that will kind of summarize the project, and thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. So, okay, and then if you're not on the list, you can also testify. That's okay. Dwayne Yoshida, would you like to say anything? Okay. Deborah Ward, come on. Yeah, come on up, because that way you can face people. You can sit or stand or do whatever.
I'd like to commend Kristen for doing a good job of responding to many of the community concerns that were raised in a letter that Sierra Club sent, and other people have sent as well. And many of those concerns were allayed, and I appreciate that. I would say that on behalf of Sierra Club, one of our main concerns has to do with the fact that Mamani trees at the age of 2 years is still very, very small. And so the idea that we would have 80% survival after 2 years does not mean that after 10 or 20 or 100 that there would be any survival at all. So it seems to me that a longer monitoring period and a longer commitment to replacement would be advisable. And the other concern that a lot of people raised was the practice of either OMKM or MKSS to close the toilets during a contentious period a year or so ago, maybe it was 2, when there was a lot of activity on the mountain, and the organization decided to close the restrooms at a time when there were hundreds of people, including visitors, who then found ways to relieve themselves almost everywhere. And that was extremely unpleasant. And I realize that that has nothing to do with the visitor center, with your proposal. However, it is an ongoing concern that there be a commitment on the part of the university to maintain sanitation facilities appropriately. We were very happy that you were willing to change the policy, the proposal with regard to the gating, because we felt that people who went that far needed to acclimate, whether they were, whether the visitor center was open or not, and the fact that there was parking during a period when people arrive in the middle of the night or they arrive in the early morning. It's still important to be able to acclimate and relieve themselves. So appreciate that. Other than that, I have no further comments.
Corey Harden.
Yeah, thank you for holding the hearing and for your presentation. I share a lot of Debbie's concerns. I am concerned about the track record of the university on Mauna Kea, where environmental studies and a state audit have found significant and substantial adverse impacts to cultural and natural resources. I'm a little confused about why improvements and more parking are needed, because visitor center hours and the number of stargazing nights just got reduced. And Governor Ige has plans to reduce the number of visitors and tours, and UH only has about 20 years left on its lease. Let's see, I'm concerned about cutting the Mamani trees. I mean, you can't replace an old tree, and it's in critical habitat for Palila. Some of the plants that would be removed are food for at-risk native invertebrates, and the endangered opeapea, the Hawaiian hoary bat, and endangered birds have been seen in the area. And when you do construction, that can bring in some invasive species. I'm concerned about blocking of cultural access to public lands, possible damage to historic sites, and also there's construction worker housing proposed, and the cumulative impacts from this project plus the housing should be considered. And if not, then it's segmentation where you split the project up into a lot of little projects and you avoid doing a big EIS. So thank you for listening.
Okay. D or R Magata? I can't. Oh, good. All right. Blake Watson. Thanks, Blake. James Stagg.
So the concerns I had were a bit more utilitarian, mostly about access to bathrooms late at night and early in the morning. As Debbie mentioned, the bathrooms were closed during the contentious period a couple years ago, but they remain closed overnight at this point until early morning. So personally, I'm a tour guide on Mauna Kea. I go up in the early morning, and we only have access to porta potties at this point, and the numbers are very limited, despite there being about an average of 50 or so tourists at that time. Concerned that any construction near the Longhouse might end up with the removal of the 2 porta potties that are currently there, which would lower the number of available bathrooms to 2 for roughly 50 people, which is going to become unsanitary, especially people that are up there on their own, not with tours, are just going to go off in the bush and use it rather than waiting, like she said. Also, the gates blocking access to the VIS. You did say that they would always be open when not staffed. I just wanted to make sure that was the case, because if it's forgotten and left closed, that's going to reduce our access to, parking and bathrooms even more early in the morning. So that's a concern for us. I think that's about all I had. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What was the deal with the gates?
So the gates at the employee parking is generally left closed, just to kind of block off that area so they have a spot to park. The gate up by the visitor center will remain open, except during the evening stargazing when people are kind of feeling it out.
Okay. I think that answers.
Have it open, just have it closed during that evening.
Yeah, I think that answers James' question. The issue of the bathrooms really, I think, is maybe related, but I think it's a little tangential to this. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I think we're all interested in that issue, though. Safe to say. Yeah. So, okay. I don't have any further questions, although I may have some questions after the next speakers. Stuart Hunter? Oh, Stuart. Fritz, you're fine. Nadine? Shelley? Good. Armin Coleman? Okay.
The first one is, can anyone tell me the history on parking lot 3?
Okay, I'll write that down.
Okay. The reason why I ask is, it's obvious that with increased visitor traffic up there, it's just going to continue unless the whole area is gated off down at the highway, with the highway complete and with visitor traffic to this island increasing year after year. I mean, to me, the thing is, we know that there are going to be more visitors up there. And if there is a gravel lot there already, it's due to probably overflow for the most part. I don't know how long it's been there, but it just seems logical to me that Lot 3 should really be part of this project as well, so that there's ample parking up there for a number of years to come. Let's see, I got to remember what my second question was now. Oh, wait, I'll catch you later.
What you're saying is you think there should be more improved parking?
And I don't remember what the other one was. It's part of signage. I think one of the most effective ways for signage for traffic flow is painted arrows on the asphalt. That makes it very apparent which way traffic flow is, rather than signs that people will miss.
Okay, duly noted. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mention that. That is actually part of the plan. The plan was to minimize the amount of standing signs and that arrows will be painted on, especially with the direction.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as the overall parking, I mean, at this point, I don't know. I think we appreciate. I'm sure they appreciate the comments. It's not my project. I'm just the hearing officer. I don't know that it's something that really, you know, they've done an EA already for what they're proposing. So I think it is what it is at this point. And maybe that's something that will be looked at in the future.
What sparked that for me was that photograph with all of the cars and trucks that were there. And I realized that Lot 2 is built for 42 spaces. But still, you're going to have overflow down on 3, I'm sure.
Okay, thanks, Armin. So I have one other person. Oh, Jessica, UH. You good? Okay. Is there any other folks out there that would like to testify in this matter? Please feel free to do so.
Just had a simple question. Where the access way meets the visitor center parking lot, where it currently is, any idea on how wide that's going to be? Because that's that paved area between the Statue of Musica and the wall is fairly narrow to begin with. So I'm just concerned about larger vehicles being able to exit out of the access way back onto the road comfortably.
You said you're a tour operator up there, or a guide. Yeah, you should really probably take this up with them one-on-one. You know, it seems like more of a very sort of specific sort of concern of yours as one of the tour operators, rather than, you know, really think you should talk to them sort of one-on-one. But do you have anything to add to his question?
I don't know the exact dimensions. I mean, I know that it has been designed to function as a turnaround, both for private vehicles and for the commercial vehicles. So that was taken into consideration in the design. So it's designed to accommodate that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Deb.
So the top parking lot is here, and people will be going out, but other people will be coming up like this and turning left at the same time that people are coming in and out of the top parking lot. Have you worked out traffic issues with regard to that? I realize in the dark you're going to have it gated, but still.
Yeah,
Cross traffic at a tight corner.
Well, I mean, there'll be a stop sign at the top of the access lane, and then I think the people coming in have the right of way, and then the people going out of the access lane will have a stop sign. So that's kind of.
Sorry, Debbie, just for the record, for these personal comments or on behalf of Sierra Club?
Oh, that was a personal question.
Okay, thank you. Or your original comments?
That was discussed at the Sierra Club meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, concerns about Mauna trees. We'll probably, I'm sure we'll probably have more discussion about that as we, you know, move towards the next phase, since it's been raised as an issue. We'll talk about that in the staff report. We'll see if I'm not only the hearing officer, I also work in the office, so I know a lot about the process. So we'll, you know, we'll talk about that we'll see how that goes. And then Corey asked about why parking's being expanded. I think it's just kind of being improved, is my understanding of the situation. Is this? Do you consider this like more parking stalls, or is it simply improving the situation?
It's improving the existing situation, but it's also in part to provide that safe access.
Okay.
People have been parking on the other side of the road, and that parking is now been removed. But also, there was more of a safety issue.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, we're going to we'll suss out we'll vet all these issues, and you'll all have access to view the staff report when it gets published. And at that point, you're welcome to submit additional testimony if you don't feel that we've addressed the issues to your satisfaction. You know, feel free to try to set us straight. But I do appreciate y'all's input on this. Thanks for coming out. Thank OMCAM for coming out. Mauna Kea Rangers. We talk about you guys all the time now. Yeah. So really appreciate you taking time out of your evening to do this, and hope you all have a safe trip home tonight, and nice seeing you again. Okay? Thank you.